Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. The Israeli army says that it has struck a senior Iranian commander in Tehran. Loud explosions were heard in the central Tehran as the war with the US and Israel rages for the fourth day. Hezbollah says it targeted a military facility in Israel in its fourth attack as Israel continues to strike Lebanon, including the capital Beirut. Turkey says it is working with the US to lift sanctions imposed on Ankara before the US midterm elections in November. 6 years ago, the US sanctioned Turkey over its purchase of Russian S-400 missile systems. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban hold a phone call about Hungarian citizens captured while fighting for Ukraine, as well as other issues related to the war. And Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. meets with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung in Manila. The two leaders discuss ways to deepen economic and security ties as geopolitical uncertainty mounts. Hello and welcome. Our top story is from the Horn of Africa. Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland could be caught in geopolitical crosshairs. Somaliland's close ties with Israel could turn it into a battlefield, directly facing the wrath of Iran and its proxy groups. And at the center of this escalating conflict lies the Berbera Port. The port lies along the Gulf of Aden on one of the world's busiest trade routes. An Emirati firm called DP World has significantly invested in the port over the past decade. Not only does the UAE run the Berbera Port, it also has a military base nearby that has been recently expanded. The UAE has forged deep economic and security ties with Somaliland. According to reports, Abu Dhabi was also a key player in Israel's recognition of Somaliland. Back in December, when Netanyahu announced the move, Somalia, the Arab world, the European Union, and the African Union condemned it. It was only Washington which supported Israel's move, while Abu Dhabi chose to stay silent on the matter, which was seen as a sign of support. The UAE has been caught in the latest war between the US, Israel, and Iran. Tehran has been raining missiles on the UAE while targeting US bases in the Gulf. Now, Somalia has condemned Iran's retaliatory attacks on Gulf states, except for the UAE. Now, this statement shows that the conflict between Mogadishu and Abu Dhabi runs deep. Meanwhile, Somaliland seems unbothered by the war in West Asia. The breakaway region has said that Israeli recognition could be a boon for the Berbera Port.
Israel and its logistics business firms, merchants, we expected them to come and invest in our country. This will directly increase the port utilization. This will have a direct increase to the port utilization. Yes, it will make a very tremendous increase. The volume of our port will just increase more than that within 5 years.
Somaliland initially denied any plans for hosting an Israeli military base. It has recently said that nothing is off the table. Somaliland's president is expected to visit Israel soon and to sign agreements with Netanyahu. But if the presence of Israeli military on Somaliland soil is confirmed, it could become a target of attacks by Iran and Houthis, which is an Iranian proxy group based in Yemen. The Houthi leader has already warned that any Israeli presence in Somaliland would be considered a military target. The breakaway region also faces a more local threat from Al-Shabaab. It is an Al-Qaeda-affiliated terror group based in Somalia. Al-Shabaab has said that it will oppose any attempt by Israel to use Somaliland. And as a part of its diplomatic push, Somaliland is trying to gain America's support by offering its minerals and military bases.
Our friends, if it's Israel or the United States, explore the potential of minerals that we have, particularly the rare earth and the strategic minerals, in which we know are becoming very important for the United States.
Somaliland may see opportunity in Israel's recognition, but every step toward new allies also opens the door to new enemies. As missiles fly across West Asia, the breakaway region now sits at the intersection of global rivalries, regional wars, and resource politics. And staying on with the Horn of Africa, another conflict has been gaining momentum. It's between two neighbors that share a complex history. We're talking about Ethiopia and Eritrea. Lately, Addis Ababa has been using military pomp and show to rally support as tensions rise with Asmara. Now this week, Ethiopia celebrated the 130th anniversary of the Battle of Adwa. It marked the country's victory over invading Italian forces in 1896. The battle helped to ensure that Ethiopia was never colonized. Now this is the second such military parade in nearly a week. Last month, Ethiopia held a parade marking the 65th anniversary of its federal army. These celebrations come at a time when Ethiopia is locked in a standoff with Eritrea over access to the Red Sea. Back in 1993, Eritrea gained independence from Ethiopia. With this, Ethiopia became a landlocked country, and the Asab seaport became a port of Eritrea. Now, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has made it clear that his country seeks to regain access to the Red Sea by peaceful means. But Asmara sees this as a provocation of war. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has called regaining Red Sea access essential for the country's nearly 130 million people. Ethiopians, too, have echoed his concerns.
I envision another Adwa. For me, the issue of securing port access and ensuring national prosperity represents a contemporary Adwa. I hope that every Ethiopian will help transform this vision into reality by prioritizing peace, restoring the port, and fostering the prosperity of our nation.
Tensions between Addis Ababa and Asmara go beyond the Red Sea. Ethiopia has accused Eritrea of arming rebels in the Amhara region. Asmara has denied allegations, saying that Addis Ababa is looking for a reason to start a war. Tensions in Ethiopia's Tigray region have also been escalating. Recently, the Ethiopian federal troops and Tigray rebels have massed along the border, raising fears of renewed war. The region has a bloody past. A war broke out in Tigray between the army and the rebels in 2020. Eritrean forces supported the Ethiopian army in the war. It went on for 2 years and killed at least 600,000 people. The Pretoria Agreement ended the war in 2022. But since then, ties between Ethiopia and Eritrea have again nosedived. Now, this was because Eritrea was excluded from the peace deal. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has also accused ex-ally Eritrea of mass killings in the Tigray War.
Some people think the current dispute between Ethiopia and Eritrea stems from the Ethiopian government's request for access to the sea. They think and analyze it that way. However, this is not the case. Since the existence of Eritrea, there have been issues between Ethiopia and Eritrea.
As tensions rise in Tigray and Ethiopia continues to push for regaining access to the Red Sea, the international community has raised alarm that this could trigger a new conflict in an already volatile region. Donald Trump has branded himself as President of Peace, but in Central Africa, a peace deal brokered by him is now under strain, and his administration now turning the heat on a partner it has backed for years. The United States has imposed sanctions on Rwanda's military, accusing it of undermining an agreement meant to calm fighting in eastern Congo. 4 senior officers have also been placed under sanctions. Now, the measures freeze any US-based assets and cut them off from the dollar-based financial system. Washington says the Rwandan military supported and fought alongside the M23 rebel group in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the US Treasury, the M23 would not have captured key cities such as Goma and Bukavu without Rwandan backing.
President Trump is the peace president, and Treasury will use all tools at its disposal to ensure that the parties to the Washington Accords uphold their obligations. We expect the immediate withdrawal of Rwanda Defense Force troops, weapons, and equipment.
The sanctions follow a December 2025 agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, known as the Washington Accords, personally brokered by Trump. The deal aimed to ease cross-border tensions and to reduce violence in eastern Congo. But days after it was signed, M23 fighters captured the city of Uvira near the Burundi border. Now, although the group later withdrew, US officials say it remains active and continues to receive support from Rwanda. The US Treasury also alleges that thousands of Rwandan troops have operated inside eastern Congo and that advanced military equipment was supplied to the rebels. Now, Rwanda rejects the accusations. Kigali denies backing M23 and says it faces ongoing security threats from armed groups operating inside Congo. President Paul Kagame has repeatedly pushed back against international pressure, arguing that Rwanda's actions are driven by national security concerns.
The amount of threats we come under on a daily basis. We will do this if you don't do this. We will do that if you don't do that. Sometimes you feel choked by this kind of... But instead of being choked by all of that, I will be choked by just being defiant and telling you to go to hell.
Eastern Congo remains one of the most volatile regions in Africa. More than 100 armed groups operate there. The M23 is the most prominent. The United Nations estimates that thousands have been killed and more than 8 million people have been displaced in the conflict. Eastern Congo is one of the most resource-rich regions in the world. The belt holds the largest known reserves of cobalt, along with major deposits of copper and lithium. Now, these minerals are critical for electric vehicle batteries and modern electronics. Part of Washington's engagement in the region has focused on securing more reliable access to these resources, as the United States competes with China in global supply chains. Congo has also reportedly presented US officials a shortlist of 44 mining and energy projects. However, several of those projects are located in unstable or contested areas. According to reports, US officials are struggling to reduce the risks associated with investing in what some describe as war zone minerals. In fact, one diplomat suggested slowing new agreements to encourage stronger US pressure on the M23. Congolese officials have described that claim as speculation. For Washington, the sanctions are meant to enforce a peace deal and secure their supply of critical minerals. For Rwanda, they reflect a one-sided judgment. And for Congo, the conflict remains both a security crisis and a bargaining tool. Whether the pressure changes realities on the ground is still unclear. But Eastern Congo is no longer just a regional conflict. It now sits at the intersection of diplomacy, minerals, and global competition. And we end the show in Guinea, where the big question echoing from the streets of Conakry is, where is the president? Now, reports suggest that Mamadi Doumbouya, the military leader, has been out of the country for more than 2 weeks. The 41-year-old left on the 13th of February to attend the African Union summit in Addis Ababa. He delivered remarks and was photographed with other heads of state, and then he disappeared from public view and has not reportedly returned to Guinea since. As speculation intensified this week, the military government finally broke its silence. Presidential aides have now been giving interviews to local and international media, insisting the president is in good health.
He took advantage of the chance to undergo a routine medical checkup, as prudent leaders do when they are concerned with maintaining their full capacity to act. I can state, with the utmost clarity, that the results are reassuring. Everything is going very well.
Officials say Doumbouya is merely taking a few days of rest and promise that he will return to the capital within the next week, but they have not disclosed his location. No recent video or public appearance has been released, and in a political system built around a single center of power, prolonged silence draws attention. To understand why this is causing a stir, you have to understand how Doumbouya governs. Now, he has ruled Guinea since September of 2021, when he overthrew the country's first democratically elected president, Alpha Condé, in a military coup. Since then, political space has narrowed. Public demonstrations have been restricted. Several opposition figures have faced arrest, prosecution, or exile. In December of 2025, Doumbouya secured a 7-year presidential mandate in a vote where major opposition leaders were barred from contesting. But even during that campaign period, his public appearances were limited, confined largely to brief events and his swearing-in ceremony in January. Now, analysts note that in highly centralized systems, authority is closely tied to visibility. When the leader is absent, uncertainty can spread quickly within political and military circles. This is not the first time an African head of state has vanished from public view. History has shown that extended absences often trigger speculation. In 2010, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua of Nigeria was absent for months for medical treatment abroad before his death. In 2012, Mele Zenawi of Ethiopia disappeared from public view after an African Union summit, and his death was confirmed weeks later. In 2014, Michael Sata of Zambia faced similar reassurances from aides before he died in London. And in 2024, Paul Biya of Cameroon was absent for over a month amid reports about his health before reappearing publicly in a frail condition. For now, there is no official indication of a serious medical issue in Guinea, and officials say that President Doumbouya will return to Conakry within days. If he does, the speculation may quickly fade. If the absence continues, questions inside Guinea and among its international partners are likely to intensify. And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global South. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.